Let's talk about horror. I know, it's been done. But what's the appeal to the abhorrent? The intractable draw of the terrifying, the fascination, the grim, the gruesome, and the gory. Perhaps the thrill of the chase keeps our hearts beating and our veins filled with adrenaline is what draws us to self-inflicted fear. But isn't there something innate, more deeply rooted in our psyche that keeps us enthralled, that goes beyond mere shock and excitement? After all, we see examples of horror in our oldest stories. Cronus devouring his children, the dismemberment of Osiris, the monstrous Grendel, or even the apocalyptic terror of Revelations. Horror comes in many flavors. There is, of course, gore, the base, visceral form, preoccupied with disgust and revulsion. To consider the body itself ripped open, rent limb from limb, eviscerated, disemboweled for a captive audience to gaze and shock, or to steal unsteady glances through trembling fingers. Cronenberg's The Fly is considered a paragon of body horror, and for good reason. The film's central conceit is the deterioration and destruction of Seth Brundle's fleshly vessel. But what value does such carnal irreverence offer us? Perhaps our ancestors required some catharsis to mollify their troubled minds after the savagery of the hunt, to calm their conscience as they filled their bellies with the bleeding flesh of their prey. And so they told stories to satiate their souls as well as their stomachs. After all, no one really wants to know how the sausage is made. The horror of the uncanny is a bit more difficult to grasp. It is the dread of the unknown, and by extension, that which haunts the very fringes of our comfort zone. It's stealthy, disguising itself as something familiar and understood, and yet something is not quite right. Fluttering glance in a doll's eyes, with the dissonance of a clown's expression. The uncanny is that creeping terror that threatens to sneak up behind us and wrap its harrowing fingers around our throats. And just as we expect to feel its grasp, there's nothing. Kubrick's The Shining utilizes this form of horror masterfully. The calm, peaceful family moments stretched and dilated until all comfort fades to a shadowy haze of mistrust, uncertainty, paranoia. The uncanny exhibits the danger lurking beneath the waters that we once thought safe, behind the faces we thought we could trust, the friendly eyes and disarming smiles that once gave us some semblance of security. But every smile is a grinning skull, a whited sepulchre, and no tomb is a sanctuary. Fear. Pure, atavistic fear. The taste of blood on your teeth. The burning swell of arteries, desperate to feed your sinews as you stumble and scramble with fanatical delirium, while just behind you footfalls hammer, eagerly snapping at your heels, hungrily grasping with gnashing jaws and ravenous roars. What will you do when they catch you? How long can you run? How long until your legs give out and your lungs scream for mercy and you find yourself at the wrong end of tooth and nail? The primal horror of pursuit, the threat of predation, is among our most deeply ingrained instincts. Even as children, we understand the basic concepts of chase hide and seek, and actively avoid capture. In the midst of a chase, the very concept of capture becomes impossibly horrifying. Our minds reel from it like a searing flame, and there is nothing but escape. Escape! At any cost. Spielberg's Jaws exemplifies the sheer terror of facing an impossibly superior predator. Faster, stronger, unimaginably more adept to the savagery of nature. And we would do well to remember that though we may not be at the mercy of a carnivorous behemoth, there are forces of will and instinct ever present, ready to devour us whole. Forces of avarice, with no compunction or mercy about where they get their next meal. First law of the jungle: everybody's hungry. Horror is not about spectacle. It's not about chills, thrills, gasps, or groans. It's not about icy veins or hairs standing on end. It's not made just to disgust or disturb. Horror is educational. Any silly action movie can get your adrenaline pumping. Any banal comedy can amuse an idle mind for an hour. Any soppy romance can tool with your emotions. Horror, if done right, can teach us a lesson, can sharpen the intellect, and increase emotional maturity. By facing that which the mind finds abhorrent, we can come to terms with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be, and then better serve ourselves and society. We become inoculated to the terror which would otherwise bind us in perpetual mental infancy. In short, horror corrects us. So don't be discouraged by the abundance of schlock. If you're looking for a scare worthwhile, it's been done.